WOLB Baltimore, and WERQ-FM, HD3 Baltimore.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
Good afternoon, family, and welcome to another edition of the DMV Daily Radio program. Of course, this is your host, Hassan Giordano, a.k.a. Mr. Politics, back in the building for our final program here on OLB 1010 AM. Yeah, the last show of Season 1 of the DMV Daily Show. As we previously discussed, we're looking to get into our own studio by the end of this month, and which we look to be on track to do. And beginning next month, we will bring you the second season of the DMV Daily Radio program with even more power-packed programs than what you've gotten accustomed to this season, if you can believe that. Plus, we will be launching the DMV Daily Radio outlet and broadcast network, complete with an entire cast of hosts and a cadre of compelling shows and programs. So you don't want to go anywhere while we're away, as you certainly don't want to miss what we have in store for you in the coming weeks. And if you've enjoyed the programming that we've brought you thus far and look forward to what we're going to bring you in the future, make sure you go to www.gofundme.com/DMV Daily Radio. Donate what you can and make sure that we meet our goal by this time next week. But giving the level of support that we've gotten from our family and our listenership thus far, I think by Tuesday we should hit our goal if things keep on track the way they have been. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And I'm telling you something, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you see the amount and the level of technology that we'll be able to have and the amount of programming that we'll be able to bring you. I'm telling you, it's going to be something that you're not going to want to miss. You're going to tune into. I know I've heard a lot of rave reviews about this program thus far. And that's many thanks to my co-host, the producer, Jason Rodriguez, as well as the many fine guests that we had come in day after day, week after week to give you that news and information. But moving forward, we're going to have even more. And then we're going to have an entire network of compelling programs that we'll bring to you that you can go right to DMV Daily Radio and you'll be able to hear it 24/7. Programs that are geared not just to politics and news, but sports and entertainment and more. So we got a lot of hosts lined up that I know that you'll be looking forward to hearing. So that'll be something that you definitely don't want to miss. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, today is the last day of the first season and that we will be in the WOLB studios. And I know today's program was supposed to be about the school board revoking the charter of the Banneker Blake Academy. But the guests that agreed to come on to discuss this very important topic got held up in meetings with their attorneys today as they seek to appeal the board's decision. So we will make this final show a free-for-all Friday. So what better way to wrap up the first season of the DMV Daily is that all-important and popular DMV Daily free-for-all Friday program. But the organizers did want me to let you know that they will be hosting a community town hall with the parents and the children of this school that's located at 1101 Winston Avenue next week on this Tuesday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m. So if you want to get your voice heard, you want to know more about what's going on, the appellate process in which this is taking place, the information that wasn't being discussed and wasn't able to be heard at the school board meeting just last week, then you definitely want to make it out there this Tuesday, November 20th, 6:30 p.m. Again, the address is 1101 Winston Avenue. Now, again, as always, this program is owned, operated, and produced by the DMV Daily Media Group, Maryland's premier communication firm specializing in radio, television, and online podcast productions. You want to get your message heard each and every day? You want to advertise on the DMV Daily. And I'm telling you, you want to do it now, because now when we come back up, we're going to have an entire program of things that you'll be able to advertise, not just on the DMV Daily Show, but on the radio station itself and on other programs as well. You'll be able to get your message heard by thousands, not only on DMV Daily Radio, but on iTunes, Spotify, Alexa, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Google Play, TuneIn, all that and more. And email us, info@dmvdaily.news. Call 443-294-3900. We also want to let you know that this show is brought to you by that powerhouse union, SEIU 500, who wants you to know that Together We Rise is not just a slogan, but rather a blueprint for the future of the union movement. Visit them today at www.seiu500.org, and their slogan is, unless you're Mark McLaren, we're not late. But other than that, we are at all times. Maybe they won't be late when we start doing it from our own studios. Who knows? They might be even more late, but who knows? This show is brought to you also by that fine criminal defense team known as the Bates & Garcia Law Firm, specializing in not only just criminal defense, real estate, and bodily injury cases. If you need an attorney and you need them today, make sure you call Bates & Garcia. That is Maryland's legal dream team. Contact them today for your free consultation, 410-814-4600. And, of course, you know, we brought you all the compelling and up-to-date information on election 2018, and we're going to bring you even more information about election 2020. You're a candidate or you're a potential candidate, you want to run for office, Politicom Strategic Solutions is the person you want to call. They've been successfully helping candidates get elected since the 1970s and has mastered the art of political communications and become Maryland's premier campaign consultant firm. Again, you're looking to get in office? Make sure you call them today, 240-242-7505, or go to the website, politicomsolutions.com. Now, you want to join in today's conversation? You got something to get off your chest? Again, the last time you're going to have the opportunity on these airwaves will all be. But remember, this is the last show for the season 1. So go ahead and get it in today. Call us now, 410-481-1010. Go to the Facebook page at DMV Daily News. Get your question and your comment heard right there. We make sure that we listen and we see everything that's happening. That's up now?
Yeah.
All right.
Just popped up literally 2 seconds ago.
So we want to talk about, we talked about earlier this week, we never really got around to it. Attorney General Brian Frost files a motion. Yeah, about a 6th congressional district, right? That's somewhat important. We want to talk about Georgia, right? All these millions of votes that's been cast, what may be going on with that gubernatorial election down there. But there's two major issues that we really want to focus on, not just the schools. We're going to do a program around the school issue as well. I think that's an issue that can go back and forward depending on where you're at with that. I know there's a lot of people who are upset, including myself, about the way they target charter schools. Just taking Banneker Blake out of the equation, this is something that's a huge issue. But when you include Banneker Blake, it's an even bigger issue. So we want to talk about that at a later date. But today, two things. We just wrote about it on DMV Daily earlier today, and we want to talk about it, and I definitely want to get Mark's input on this. Mayor Catherine Pugh puts forth an executive order that now makes minority contractors or includes LGBTQ in to be with minority contracting, right? Which pissed off a lot of minority contractors, pissed off a lot of people who, look, we're celebrating the 40th year of the MBE program, right? Maryland is the longest serving MBE program in the entire nation. Perrin Mitchell was a lead architect of that, right?
He was gay.
It doesn't matter if he's gay. Okay. That doesn't mean... See, here's the thing. You're looking at it from a gay-straight situation, right? Black people, in particular, look at the muddling of minority programs. What was the minority intended to do?
Some black
African Americans.
Some black
Then it became minorities become white women. Then it becomes now LGBT. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How can you prove that a person is gay? Now this opens the door here. I'm going to tell you what their main issue was. It wasn't the fact that the homosexual. You know what it was? This sounds like they're doing the bidding for the white counterparts, because now it's easier for a white male to go in and say, you know what, I'm a gay man, so now I got a business. I want this certification. How can you prove that you're gay?
This whole argument is rooted in homophobia, and we should not pretend that it's rooted in anything else.
I'm talking to you. Me and you.
No, I know.
We ain't talking about nobody else.
No, but what I'm telling you is that this argument that comes up every time, no, being LGBT is not the same as being black, just as being black is not the same as being Hispanic is not the same as being Asian. That's not the point. The point of MBE certification is to come through and pick up traditionally disenfranchised populations and give them increased access to city contracting.
When does a gay company has been disenfranchised?
All the time. Are you kidding me? In every way, African Americans are.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I wouldn't know a company's gay unless you told me they were. I could tell they're black.
So
I know Ivan Bates is black, clear as day. I wouldn't know if he was a homosexual.
This is the silliest argument.
It's not.
It really is silly because. Is it your contention that LGBT folks aren't discriminated against? Is that your contention?
As a group, yes.
Okay.
As a group, yes.
Right. Just as African Americans, right? As a group, yes. Right? Yes.
To a degree, yes. I'll agree with you there.
Okay. Right. So just because they're not the same doesn't mean that they're not entitled to the same protections or the same benefits. There are a group of people that historically would not do business with black folks. So MBE was brought along to try and remedy some of that. There are unquestionably a large group of people who historically would not do business with an openly gay or LGBTQ person, period, company. And so this is intended to remedy that. This is not a big deal or a big situation. And the objection to this really is rooted in homophobia. That's where it comes from.
Okay, granted, I won't take that away from you. But what I know and what I've heard, I could not go to sleep. And you know I'm an early bird because I wake up 3:30 in the morning. I could not go to sleep last night because of the amount of phone calls and things I were getting. Number one,
from homophobes.
No, I think people were concerned. Here's two things. Number one, they were worried about, I'm telling you, it was more, there were some people who I know aren't homophobic who felt like that this was because they were these white big money interests who feel like we're going to go every which way, including trying to privatize the water system here in Baltimore, that feel like this is a get around. This is enabling them to get around the process that's allowed minorities in particular and women to be able to advance in this country. Number one. The second one, the biggest question in this, and I'm just relaying what the question is, which is to a degree, is how do you prove it? I know he's black. I just look at him. I can't look at somebody and know if they're gay or not.
Yeah.
So what is the balance there? How do you prove that? Or disprove it?
Well, first of all, there has not been a history in this country of people pretending to be gay to get some kind of special privilege. That's the biggest red herring in the world. There's nobody out here that's like, oh, I'm straight, but to get this contract, I'm going to pretend to be gay, and they can't prove I'm not. That's the silliest reason to be against.
Really?
Well, let's be honest here.
Let's not paper to get millions of dollars. You wouldn't do it.
Well, let's not pretend here like this MBE has not been being gone around altogether anyway. The big white contractors just hire on. I sit on the Wage and Hour Commission. The big white contractor just hires on this little black subcontractor and gives them a teeny piece of the pie, and all of a sudden now it's an MBE certified contract. They've been playing these games with each other forever, but you're not worried about. We
shouldn't even get minority contracts because we're the majority. I never understood that. Black people are the majority of this city, and we're still getting minority contracts.
Well, because
that makes absolutely no sense.
Well, of course. So are you? So let me. What are we arguing about? Are we arguing about including LGBT folks?
Yeah, that's what
are we trying to throw out the whole MBE program?
We could just throw the whole thing out.
The fact remains that this is an argument that
if I can say something, that's not always what happens. A lot of times you have white women that are brought on as part of a construction company or a particular company, and then they go and certify as an MBE.
Yeah.
Because they're considered to be a minority. So I've
and that's why a lot of African Americans are mad, because it feels like they continuously muddle something that was designated specifically for blacks.
Well,
period.
as a black gay man, it doesn't feel muddled to me. Okay, so I'm sorry if there are folks. That's the other
because
thing.
you got the best of both.
You're daggone right. This is these conversations always miss the duality. It's almost like there's LGBT folks and then there's black folks, and they're pitted against each other. But there are a boat ton of black, openly or not, LGBT folks that have a say in this conversation and a stake in this community too. And they continue to get disregarded in these conversations that pit the LGBT community against the African American community. I know a lot of LGBT African American business owners that can benefit from this. So, I accord people the presumption of sincerity on their arguments, but 9 times out of 10, if you get to talk to somebody that's really vehement in opposition to this for more than 6 or 7 minutes, you're going to get to the root of it, which is that they just don't like gay people. And that's your problem. We ain't going nowhere, sweetheart.
Well, Ivan, another subject, and family, you can call in about any of the subjects we're talking about today. This is about you, as well as us running our mouth. The second subject is something that we had just realized, that the man who was named police commissioner and then said he wasn't going to be police commissioner is now supposed to be the next police commissioner for the city of Baltimore. Of course, we're talking about Joel Fitzgerald, the police chief of Fort Worth, Texas, has now been officially confirmed by our mayor, Catherine Pugh, to be her pick for the next police chief of the city. But of course, it's got to go through the confirmation and all that. But you can pretty much think that's a done deal. Do you think that was a little bit of a hiccup from this administration that, first was, oh, no, what are you talking about? And now it's, yeah, that's him.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, without a doubt, it was a hiccup. I think probably Mayor Pugh may have entrusted someone with some information where her thought process was, and boom, that person, in this day and age, we live in a social media. So if you're talking to a person who you believe is a friend and they have a phone and they can tweet something out, boom, then all of a sudden they're a journalist. So I don't really blame her for that or her administration. Let's talk more or less about the selection. I'll be honest, I'm really not a fan of the selection. And the biggest reason I'm not a fan of the selection is because I think you need to have someone who understands Baltimore. I practice law all around the state, federal court. I practice law in California, Northern District of Virginia, down in Louisiana, everywhere. There is no place like Baltimore. No place at all like Baltimore. You have to understand the city. You have to understand the people. You have to understand, quote unquote, the criminal element. What works in one jurisdiction is not going to necessarily work. I've always been a big believer of what allowed the Gun Trace Task Force to come alive was because we had 2 police commissioners in Batts and Davis who weren't from Baltimore, and they had to make a choice as who they were going to trust. When they got into the police station, I just felt they trusted the wrong supervisors who allowed the Gun Trace Task Force to happen. And that's always my concern. I want someone that has an understanding of the institutional knowledge of the Baltimore City Police Department. I understand you want outside, let's clean it up. Now, if this person's here to go ahead and get rid of everybody and start from the ground up, hey, that's something as well. But you still have to have the institutional knowledge as well. But look, I'm not the mayor. This is a Mayor Pugh's choice. And will this actually be the question? And will people hold her accountable for good or for bad at the ballot box in a year and a half from now?
And I think that's an overall question that family, we want you to call in and chime in too about this is, can you just change the top and expect the rest of the body to follow? And I say that to say because last night, during all these damn conversations, the phone kept blowing, we talked about the school board, right? And we talked about Santelides, our school CEO, right? And the fact that though you've changed from Thornton to what's the other one's name that they got rid of? Andre Alonso, right? Yep. To Tisha Edwards, you have these top administrators who've been there throughout this entire time. They haven't left. Most of them just been reshuffled. Other deputies became chiefs. And so really, you haven't changed anything but the head. And if most of these head departments were there during the time where even Santelitis was there earlier on, you're not really changing anything but the figurehead. Like, there's no real, because the work is done on the department level, right? The head is just there to supervise, to make sure things go. So if those people are still there making the same idiotic decisions or the same, mistakes that we see occur over and over again, whether it's financial mismanagements or in the police department, the way that's been, are you really doing anything by just changing the head? Or do it, like you said, do we just need to come in and just clean sweep the whole thing? And that's the question.
Yeah.
And number one, and number two is, like you said, is an outsider good for Baltimore?
One of the problems I have is these job chasers, because we know that Fitzgerald actually came from Allentown and then went to Fort Worth, and kind of a similar circumstances. He hadn't had that much time in either one of those departments. Same thing with Batts. Batts originally jumped down to Long Beach, and some of these professional law enforcement officers seem to be just chasing the money, the perks, and what they may be able to get out of a city for the job. But are they really able to perform the job in the long run? He had 8 complaints from citizens when he was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So, again, what's wrong, like you said, with hiring somebody that knows the internal workings of the police department and hiring from within? And I'd like to honestly put forward a woman from the Baltimore City Police Department to run our department, because I think that we should give one of our top women commanders a chance and an opportunity to lead this department.
Well, I don't want to put a woman in just because we want to put a woman there to say, oh, look, we did it. We did it first. I mean, they got to be qualified. They got to be the person that we think is going to lead the department. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe, at this point in juncture at least, the male, egotistical, dominated police department may not be the best.
Oh, don't do it, Hassan. Please don't do it. Please don't do it.
They put a female in charge in D.C. and she did a good job.
Think about it. That's true. But it's an ego-dominated, centric type of business, right? And I don't think that they're going to follow orders the way they should.
These are the same arguments that were made against Barack Obama in 2008. It's disgusting, Hassan. Don't do that.
Got to do with it?
Because
what was the lady's name? Cindy, what was it?
Cindy Lanier.
Yeah, and again, she cleaned up.
And not only DC, but when you make arguments like, well, I'm not against women. Personally, I think it'd be great, but I don't know if the fellas, would really respect their leadership.
Do you see the gun trace task force?
It doesn't matter.
Do you honestly think people that with that mindset are going to pay attention? Hell,
yeah, they're not.
They're not even going to listen to this dude that's from out of town.
Well, then it's the same. Well, then it's the
They're
same
not going to
thing.
listen to him
That's
first.
just an awful
There was a
argument
very
to make,
qualified female candidate, Sabrina Tapp Harper.
Yes.
She was a former major in Northern District.
They know her.
And she knows the citizens, and she knows the community, and she left BPD long enough to not have that stench on her.
And she's with the sheriff now,
And she's with the sheriff's department.
Now that,
and she could have worked cohesively to sit
Why?
down and say, oh, we have the sheriffs to sit down and feel some employment.
Is she not a real woman, though, Hassan?
No,
you said these fellas are not going to be able to wrap their minds around.
See, your problem is you always want to make it a racial, sexual, sexist
it is.
Type
You
of thing.
just did.
It's not.
It's
not.
You de facto made it.
The same thing with that homosexual thing with the MBE.
Yeah.
Some people have real issues with it.
Well, then that's their problem. That's their problem.
No,
okay.
Yes, it is.
This is the same argument. This is the same argument that was made against gays in the military. It's the same argument that was made against women in the military. It's the same old retrograde arguments, and it's embarrassing to make them. Hassan, you're better than that. You really are. You should stop it.
Don, welcome to the program.
Yeah, well, Hassan, I agree with some of the points you made regarding the whole MBE situation. I'm an African-American male.
Are you homophobic?
Probably.
Huh?
I'm not.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, if he says
It's
he's not, that
always
settles it.
homophobic. It's not always
At its
sexist,
root,
man.
that argument
It's
is
called realism. Welcome
that
to the
argument
real
is
world.
at root homophobic.
Go ahead,
I don't
Don.
have any phobias. Listen, I don't practice Buddhism. I don't subscribe to it. In fact, based on my religious belief, I don't even agree with it. But I'm not, I'm not in fear of people who practice Buddhism. It's not what I subscribe to. And, my cousin, I have a cousin that I love dearly who is a part of the LGBT community. And we just had this conversation recently. And what I shared with my cousin, I told him, I said, the group that asked for tolerance for a number of years, in my estimation, has become the most intolerant folks to deal with.
See,
Got that right.
See, at its root, it's homophobia.
The very people who ask for tolerance from everyone else for years, right, are intolerant. So you can't have your own beliefs, you can't have your own value system, because if you do, and it's a dissenting view from theirs, they're not going to tolerate that. You can't dissent. You can't have a different view, because if you have a dissenting view, then they're going to be as intolerable as they possibly can be. And so it's wrong. And the argument was really a retrograde argument, is that if there's a dissenting view that you're somehow homophobic. That's a broken record. That's played out. People can have different beliefs. Now, the one thing I can't do that the LGBT community can do is they can have a wide cross-section of folks. So you can be LGBT, you can be Hispanic, you can be white, you can be whatever. I'm going to always be African-American. So there is no comparison. There is no comparison in my plight with what I am, who I am, and how I walk through the door. My cousin has a very good advantage, because unless he opens his mouth and tells you that he's a part of that community, you wouldn't know.
Oh, God.
So if he became an MBE certified company and doing state business with the state, I mean, unless he puts that down there, even if he walks in the door to do business with somebody, they can't see that on him. At least not him. Now, I'm not saying you can't see it on all people in the LGBT, but they can't see it on him. And he likes it that way. And guess what? That's his choice. That's his choice, and that's his decision. And what he says to people is his lifestyle is his preference. And I'm not mad at him for that.
It's not a lifestyle or a preference.
My blackness is not my preference. I'm happy and I'm proud to have it, but I can't go to bed tonight and say tomorrow I prefer to wake up and be Hispanic, because I can wake up and I'm still going to be as black as I was today. Right? He can wake up and prefer that he no longer wants to live a certain lifestyle.
No. Wrong. Sir, with all due respect, you've never been gay. So how can you speak about how different it is to be gay than it is to be black when you've never been gay?
Because guess what? I talk to white people who've never been black, and I share my experience with them.
But do you think that then they know what it means to be black? Do you think after you get done talking to these white people that they then know what it means to be black?
What it is to be black, but they're not telling you what it is to be black, but they can tell you what they've been told. So right. I've had conversations with my cousin. What he says is face value, and I respect what he says, because he's in the LGBT community.
Okay, all right.
So if he desires, here's a fact that's true. If he desires a woman tonight, he has all of the equipment to get that done. I have no equipment if I want to be Jewish tomorrow. I don't have anything at my disposal to make that happen.
Yeah, ask that woman, Rachel, what was her name? Rachel Dolezal, if that worked for her.
It didn't, and it didn't work for her. It didn't.
Right.
Oh, it worked for a minute until they got exposed.
It didn't work.
Exactly.
This is what I'll say to that. And I understand both sides of the argument. Those of you know my wife, Lana, Dr. Lana Bates. This is the career side of her. She does diversity and equity in education. And she opened my mind to this issue, because I thought, hey, diversity is a black, white, race thing. But what really is, it's a diversity is just in terms of who you are, your lifestyle. For instance, I remember with the institution she was working at, they had a child who decided, they were transgender and they wanted to come out. So how do you do this? It's a diversity issue. So the first thing they did was they had an individual who's transgender come and talk and educate the students. They educated the faculty, educated the staff. They talk to the child, they talk to the child's parents, and then they allow that child to be themselves. And that child had a smooth transition from what I know. And so what I've learned is that, yes, look, I was raised black. I only saw black and white. But what I've had to do since being married to Lana, without a doubt, is I had to open my mind to look at it in a different way. I think society is evolving. And one of the ways that it's evolving, I think, in looking at what diversity is. And for many people from the black community, we're like, we're black. What about us? But it's not about we're losing or we're missing out on something. What we're doing is we're saying diversity is in many, many different areas. It is opening many minds. And so from me, my marriage to my wife, she's opened my mind to that. I will say, though, if I wasn't married to Dr. Lana Bates, I don't think I would view it the same way, because your experiences are what make you an individual. Your experiences are what help to frame your reasoning, your thoughts. My experience up until my wife opening my mind and giving me a different way to look at it, I had never had that experience, and so I do understand both sides, just however in my household, diversity has a different meaning than what it was when it was just single.
I think a lot of people, and I can't say a lot of people, I know a good portion can understand the issue at hand of diversity, right? Yeah. I think the bigger issue is, one, a lot of people are stuck in that 1970 mindset of, we still haven't gotten what we're supposed to have gotten as African Americans. But then on the flip side of that, you can say, well, you know what? Well, we can have a whole conversation about that. But now it's on you to do. You can't always expect, right? You got to do for self. But in the same sense as they're all right. Because when you had the minority contract, it was based off of for African Americans. Yeah, we evolved to be minorities and open it up for Latinos, because that is a very true statement. There's a lot of us that come from a lot of different Latin places. So you can't. But then it was, okay, but now you're opening it up for white women. Mm-hmm. And so now you're opening it up for white men who can run around. And that's the real question. I think that's my real question is, how do you prove it? How do you, and that's my thing, because you're saying it's no big issue.
It's ridiculous.
But
It's a ridiculous argument.
Mark, there's a very small window, and you know this. You work in this field. Mm-hmm. There's a very small window of contracts for minority contracts, right? This is not like it's endless.
Right.
And so now this was designated and set aside, this small percentage as it is, for a small group of people.
Right.
Now you widen that group with Latinos. Then you widen it even further with white women. Now you're widening it even further, but those people, as a woman, you can prove you're a woman. As a minority, you can prove you're a minority. The only question they have is, how do you prove that?
So you're trying to say if I go and cross-dress that you can't prove that I'm a cross-dresser?
Well,
oh God, please! I can't.
What in the world is that?
Well, one of the things I want to look at that Supreme
Take a call,
Court.
please.
Look at that Supreme Court
like,
case where they sat down and upheld and said that you could, quote unquote, discriminate the cake maker out there in Denver because he didn't want to make cakes for homosexual couples.
Right.
Which is wrong.
So it's wrong. I feel it's dead wrong. Supreme Court said you could do what you want, but the question is, they asked, well, how do you prove? Well, it's what the cake maker felt.
Right.
And that's the part that's scary, because the cake maker basically could sit down and say, it's anybody I want to be.
But we're not talking, see, it's apples and oranges. That we're not saying to discriminate and we're okay with the discrimination of a business. What they're saying was, if you're going to open it up, first of all, this was done as an executive order, right? Which kudos to the mayor, because trust and believe, when I went and looked at some of the stuff from when she put it on Twitter, she put it on Facebook, they weren't the most pleasant comments that were being made to her for taking this bold statement. Because guess what? Baltimore is now the largest city in the nation to do this.
Thank you, Mayor Catherine Pugh. You're a trailblazer yet again.
But people were like, well, why wasn't it done legislatively? Guess what? She don't got to do that legislative. She can do it executive.
Not in this case.
That's the purpose of being a president or a mayor. You have that power, right? But I think it still deserves to be able to have questions about it, because you're going to have questions. It's something that's new. You're going to have questions to answer the questions.
Well, I think
make it a
the way you get certified as an LGBT contractor is you certify that you are LGBT.
Yeah, that's what I would say. You just certify.
That's what I'm saying. It can't be a question of it.
Well, I don't know. Uncle Fred, he knows. Uncle Fred.
Sweet
Fred.
Jesus.
Uncle Fred,
Uncle
let
Fred.
us know how you feel.
Well, they want to split the pie again, huh?
Yeah, man. We got a smaller piece of the pie, Uncle Fred.
You know, something always stinks in that city hall, doesn't it? Something. I remember when Kerry Smoke signed the bill that said gay rights and civil rights was the exact same thing. I could have never been more embarrassed.
There was never a bill that said gay
Well, he
rights and
signed
civil
into
rights
law.
are the
Wait,
same
wait,
thing.
wait,
That's
wait.
not what the bill said,
Okay,
Uncle
okay,
Fred.
wait,
That's
wait,
your
wait
interpretation
a
of the
minute,
legislation.
wait a minute.
Stop it.
Wait a minute. I'm not misinterpreting anything. The bill he signed was the first in the country, correct?
Yes.
That said what?
That discriminating against LGBT folks is contrary to the law. It makes it unlawful to discriminate against gay folks, just like it was against the law to discriminate against black folks, and against the law to discriminate against Asian folks, and against the law to discriminate against Latino folks, and against the law to discriminate against Jewish folks. It's
You got
not a
law
hard
degree from
concept.
where? You have a law degree from where?
I don't need a law degree. I've got
wait a
my
minute,
lawyer right
wait,
here.
Wait a minute, why are you upset?
I'm not upset at all. It's just
Well,
such a
slow down.
ridiculous
I'm trying to
argument.
I'm trying to understand
You just posited
I'm
that
trying to
Mayor
understand your
Schmoke.
position.
No, you just posited that Mayor Schmoke signed a bill that you said, not your interpretation. You said that
Okay,
the bill said gay rights and civil rights are the exact same thing. That's not what that bill said.
Well, it's something equivalent to that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Let me say this to you. And think about this. As the gentleman said earlier, we all have members of the LGBTQXYZ community in our family and our friends. But when they put the issue on the ballot, you can call it divine intervention or whatever you want to call it. Even the gay community in Baltimore City, if you think I'm lying, ask Larry Young, he'll tell you, was for civil unions.
No.
Yes, they were.
No.
Precinct, wait a minute. Every precinct in the state of Maryland, in the black community, voted against it.
You're just wrong about that, Fred. You
Is that
are
right?
absolutely wrong about that.
I
You're
bet
talking
you
to
a
someone that was
Pepsi-Cola
on the
for that.
executive committee.
I bet you a Pepsi-Cola about that's true.
That every African American precinct in the state voted against marriage equality in 2012. Is that your final answer? I'm going to want more than a Pepsi, buddy.
Wait a minute. Wait, slow up. Is this Mark?
No, it's Hassan.
That's Mark.
Slow up. Listen to this here. Every precinct, all you have to do is Google question 6, state of Maryland. And it gives you this whole spiel about how it was divided up, who went where. And the last paragraph, one sentence says, the black community in the state of Maryland voted against it.
Just not true. It's
That's
demonstrably
a fact.
not true.
That's
Tell me
a
this.
fact.
Tell me this,
That's not
Fred.
what I said.
How did question 6
I tell you
pass?
what,
Tell me this. How did question 6 pass in Baltimore City, given the fact that Baltimore City is somewhere around 70% black? If it lost black
Let me
people,
explain it to you. Can I explain it to you?
67%. Because, but that doesn't mean we turn out.
Can I explain it to you?
yes.
When Drew Burns ran, when Kerry Smoke ran against Drew Burns, okay? Excuse me. Drew Burns was winning all the way up to about 1 o'clock at night when 5,000 votes came out of the gay community of Mount Vernon. That's a fact. You're laughing?
Because
You
you
don't
don't
know
know.
that? You don't know that?
Now
You
Hassan
know
just
nothing about politics.
Hassan just got done telling you that you can't tell who's gay and who's not. Are you
Hassan,
assuming that everyone
we
that
know
votes
who
in
live
Mount Vernon is gay?
We know who live in Mount Vernon.
Are gay people? Have you been to Mount Vernon
And that
lately?
5,000 and them
Are
came
you
running
kidding
out.
me?
Wait a minute.
Fred. Oh, Fred, please stop.
Wait a minute. I live in Baltimore. How long you live in Baltimore?
Probably less longer than you've been alive, but that's not the point. I've been
point is
running
this. The
campaigns
point is-
for 20 years, and I can tell you that not even Mount Vernon precincts are even majority gay. Do you know who votes at Chase House? It's all them old folks that live in Chase House. They ain't gay, Uncle Fred.
Let me
You
say
cannot call a neighborhood
Hassan.
based on someone's
Hassan.
sexual orientation. That's silly.
Hassan,
Yeah.
where you from?
Baltimore, Park Heights.
Okay. And you're growing up in Baltimore City over the years. Was it or was it not Mount Vernon area where most of the gays lived in Baltimore City? That's right.
Yeah, but that.
Is that a fact or not? That's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay,
But you
that's
can't
not what
say
I'm
the
saying.
entire
That's not
Mount
what I'm
Vernon
saying.
is
precincts
gay,
are not
though.
gay
Wait
precincts.
a
They're
minute,
not
wait a
even
minute.
majority.
Wait a minute. I'm not homophobic. I just want to make sure I'm quoting facts.
I mean, if I had to pick an area, I was going to say Charles Village, but
Charles Village
that just
and Mount Vernon, right? Charles Village, Mount Vernon, right?
Yes, and so
Right.
how they vote is how the gays voted, right? Is that how we're extrapolating?
Smoke became the mayor, came out of that community.
Okay. So you know that they were gay.
And one of the first bills he signed, wait a minute, and one of the first bills he signed was for the benefit of the gay community.
Well, good for him.
Is
That's
it-
how
is it
politics
good for him?
works, Uncle Fred. You get out and vote for the candidate, and they sign legislation favorable to your community. That's the way it's worked since 1776, buddy. You're going to have to get used to it. That's the way it should be.
And look, I had problems with the bill. The reason why I had problems with the bill because it allowed discrimination. See, and I really wanted to see the bill to be a little bit more like in the Canadian model. The Canadian model had zero tolerance. So you couldn't be a church and not decide to not perform a ceremony to someone in the LGBT community. You couldn't have a bakery and decide not to bake a wedding cake for someone in the LGBT community. And you couldn't be a church and discourage LGBT matrimony in your church. It was considered as hate speech. And that's what I really wanted to see in the bill. I wanted to see zero tolerance policy if we were going to have civil unions or allow LGBTs to be able to have civil unions. It has to be zero tolerance for any discrimination.
I don't agree with that. I'm gay, and I don't agree with that. I think if a church doesn't want to marry a gay couple, they shouldn't have to, any more than there are Catholic churches that won't marry you if you got divorced. Are we going to go in there and tell them, no, you have to marry someone who got divorced? It doesn't matter. That's not my business what a church does. What I'm worried about is the government's recognition of my marriage.
And again, if you allow open windows like that, that's again, you allow people to take advantage.
Okay, so
like
you were against the marriage. You were the one straight person in the state of Maryland who was against marriage equality because it didn't go far enough. Is that what you're saying?
And I said that. I said that plenty of times on LY's show.
God bless you.
I said that on LY's show that if we're going to have any type of legislation, it should be zero tolerance legislation.
So since there wasn't zero tolerance, you felt like we shouldn't get anything then?
Oh no, I didn't say that.
Well, you said you were against it because it didn't go far.
Against the bill. I said I was against the language in the bill.
James, welcome to the DMV Daily Show.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hello. Quick question and a comment. Question is, am I understanding correctly that you're no longer going to be on the radio at all? It's only going to be through digital and the internet now?
Correct. But you'll be able to get it in like TuneIn and things of that sort. But we won't be on OLB 1010.
Okay, fantastic. I'm sorry to hear that. I listen to you in the car on the ride home every day. I look forward to your show and appreciate the conversation. My comment, I think, goes back to earlier in the conversation, and that is if people are concerned about the small piece of the pie being divided amongst a larger group of people, why isn't the conversation at this point more about opening up that piece of the pie so that you're not fighting over a small piece of a pie? If there's more people who want to get into that pool, why aren't people rallying around the idea of instead of 20% of all contracts have to go to minority business owners, why aren't people advocating for 30%? Why does it always have to be about dividing up a small piece of a pie? Why can't people rally around the idea of expanding that piece of the pie so that everybody has enough?
Amen. Hallelujah.
That was
And the answer to that is because the bigger contractors fight for the language in these laws.
But James makes a good point because
it's crabs in a barrel.
If you just true, it's crabs in a barrel, but in the same sense is you just increased that so-called minority to damn near majority. So if they got enough, you got African Americans, you got women, you put all them together, they can successfily fight to increase that poll.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct. And so women who constitute 51% of the population, and in Baltimore, 68% of the population is black. Do we know what is the number that they're currently fighting over? What's the minority business contract mandate?
That's a really good question. I couldn't even tell you.
I think it's something like 18% or something. So, it's not.
Yeah, it's close to 20, but not
some of the facts. So some of the facts in this conversation are being obscured because people are fighting over table scraps. People don't need to be fighting over table scraps. They need to be fighting an increase from 18% to 36%.
Yes.
How about that?
And that needs to be the conversation. All these other conversations are doing exactly what people who are in power and historically have been in power, they want you to be fighting over those table scraps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The real
but
question
you
is,
ain't bring
why are
that
we
up.
rallying
No,
around and
James made
saying,
the
why isn't it
agreeing with
50%
him.
or 68%?
Yes.
That's the real conversation. I think that, this has been an interesting exercises in rhetorical fallacies that people call in and talk about all these different ways to obscure the truth. But the truth is, you're still fighting over 18%.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't be. So that's my comment. I appreciate it. I'm going to look into finding you guys online afterwards. But I just say, keep having the conversation, but make sure that you're advocating for the real truth.
Yes, sir.
Not the truth that they want you to be talking about.
And make sure you go to dmvdaily.news. That's where you'll find us.
I appreciate that, James. That was
and just to reiterate to Mark, the Canadian Constitution.
Are you still talking about that?
Yes. It does not allow discrimination if you perform marital ceremonies.
And Canada has universal health care, too. What's your point?
Okay.
This isn't Canada.
Okay. But I'm saying if we're going to do this, then we should be inclusive.
I don't agree with that. I don't. Hassan, do you think Moss should have to marry gay couples? Under Jason's proposal, that's what he's proposing.
No, it's a religious
If somebody was, let's say somebody was Muslim that was gay, that chose to study
But if
Islam
they don't believe in that, then they shouldn't have to.
Right.
Oh, wait, now you're saying there are no gay Muslims?
Oh, I know there are.
No, there are.
I know there are.
But they don't
So then
practice,
should a
and they
mosque
wouldn't be
discriminate
openly
against
Right.
them?
Right.
That would
I
be,
got
to
you.
me, that would be.
Well, they
And that's
know.
what they don't
you're
allow
practicing
in-
a
they don't
religion
allow
that you
you to-
know is specifically
Right.
haram
Right.
in your religion. So
Right.
now you have a personal choice.
That's right.
One way or the other.
I agree.
Right? But no, you're not going to impose that. I mean,
Right,
but
I
now
agree.
with a business. That has nothing to do with you being gay. I'm not going to perform a service because I don't like your lifestyle. Are you serious?
Well,
But you're saying
it does
if
to
I
a
have a
certain extent
religious
because the
belief,
cake
if I'm a
baker-
Catholic baker,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
The baker.
cake
Or if
baker
I'm a
said,
Muslim
"I don't."
baker-
It's not
baker.
that you're gay. I don't want to make a cake for a gay wedding because I don't believe in gay weddings. That was his argument.
Right.
And quite frankly, the Supreme Court agreed with them. As horrible as that was.
But that doesn't mean that they're right. That
Right,
doesn't mean
I
the Supreme
agree.
Court-
No,
that's
I
what
agree.
I'm arguing. I don't think I think the Supreme Court got it wrong
Yes.
in
Yeah.
that case.
Yeah,
That's
me
why
too.
That's why Canada decided that no discrimination.
But we ain't
across the
Canada.
board.
Ray, welcome to the DMV Daily Show. Hello? Ray?
Oh, yes. How you gentlemen doing?
Oh, we good. How you doing, Ray?
Good.
Oh, I'm okay. Listen, I'm like the man that said that, he didn't want to make no cake because I wouldn't either. And as far as marrying him, no, because the Bible that I read, the knock that I read, it says man and woman. Now, whatever people want to do with their life, hey, go ahead. It's you that go to hell, not me.
Good night. So, what does the Bible have to do with whether the state should recognize a relationship or not?
Right. And what were we being taught during slavery? The Bible was teaching.
Thank you.
I mean,
it's. I just want to say it's particularly ironic that the African American community can get so riled up about gay folks when anybody that knows gay families knows that historically when mama got in trouble and went to jail or did this, and daddy got in trouble and got locked up on something. It's been us as gays that have stepped in and raised the families, have been the backbone of their families, have taken care of the elderly parents when no one else was, have taken care of our brothers and sisters' kids when no one else was. So to act like, all I want to say to the black community, and I understand that the black community is overwhelmingly positive. This is just some old folks that are still stuck on their stuff. But at the end of the day, I want to say to you black folks, gay folks are not your problem, okay? Gay folks are not your problem.
Is that more diversity teaching for us,
Yes.
Ivan?
Yeah.
Anybody who's in the black community knows what I just said is true.
diversity is inclusiveness to me.
Right.
Well, I think what it is you have an African American community that was brought up in such a way that, like I tell my son this, if I taught you that the microwave was an oven and the oven was a microwave, you would believe that because you believe everything your daddy teaches you.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And you would not believe otherwise until somebody smacked it upside your head.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And so we've been brought up and ingrained in such a way, just like you're talking about with the Bible. we know that the Bible wasn't created by Jesus. It wasn't written by. Matter of fact, it was created years and decades after Jesus was gone.
Right.
I can break down the Bible in such a way. They got so many passages in the Bible that they wrote 7 of them down and gave it to the group across there that deals the Pope and to put in the pamphlet. You got to get this approved.
Right.
They said, man, no. That's too pornographic. But these were scriptures from the Bible. They didn't know that, though, right? And they took... The Bible has its own issues.
Yes.
But you always want to use it when it's convenient.
Yes.
And that's a very, very, very big problem.
I mean, this country, has a history of segregation, and segregation is a taught thought or a taught ideology. White folks would teach that to their children, and their children, that would be instilled in their children, and they would have a certain belief or a certain principle. So of course, if we teach that something is wrong in our community, or we feel that something is wrong or taboo in our community, we take on to it and we pass that and we inherit that down. But at some point we have to tell the truth. That the LGBT community is no different than any other person in our community, and they should be included in any process in this country, again, including marriage.
Thank you.
Oh, hell, Hitler. Is that what you got to say?
Oh, God. You really going out with a bang on the radio.
Everybody right out the building. Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. People want that
Hail
man
Trump.
locked up, shot down, all types of stuff, man.
Hail
Man got freedom of speech. He can say whatever he want to say.
Well, no, there is a doctrine in the Supreme Court about fighting words. You cannot stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire.
Fire, you
Okay.
He didn't say fire.
Well, he
those
did
were
some
fighting words.
Thank you.
It was
What,
an
saying,
incitement
oh,
word.
hell, Hitler?
Oh, those
Yes.
were fighting
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
words.
an
hell,
incitement
Trump?
word.
No, not the same thing.
Man,
It was an incited word.
Well, when we go off there, Ivan's going to be doing a tutorial on fighting words and how they actually are legal. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, it's been good. It's been fun. Season 1 is in the
DMV
books.
Daily.
Season 1 is done.
It's done. Season 1 is done. Back to the Sesame Street nursery rhymes. Season 1 is done. Stay tuned for season 2. What? I don't know how
It's
to
going
rhyme
to
that
come
good.
into you.
Nah, it didn't
Season
work.
2 is coming to
It'll be
you.
bigger, badder,
season
bolder.
It's coming. Yeah. But y'all got to check it out. DMV Daily Radio. We want to make it do what it do. We had a lot of fun here, making it do what it do here. What was it? It hasn't even been 2 months. It feels like a year. We've been
It's
doing
been
it.
2 months. It's been 8 weeks.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, we just had
we
1 week
started
that was 5
October
weeks in
1.
it.
One week that had 5 weeks in it.
1 month that had 5 weeks in it.
No, we started October 1, right?
Yeah.
No, it hasn't been 2 months.
No, it's been
7
40
weeks, I think.
some days.
Yeah.
7 weeks.
It's
I got
31
I got
days
almost
in
30
August,
episodes
October.
online.
And today is the 16th day of it. So it's only been 47 days.
Yeah.
You couldn't have got 2 months out of 47 days. I don't care what mathematics you're working with over there.
There was 5 weeks in 1 month. So we did the whole thing.
October
There
had
are only
31
We'll conversate
days.
with this offline.
16 days.
We have to
this
have a
month.
math
Never
tutorial
a
as
month
well.
that has
7
5
days.
full weeks.
We will be having a math
October,
tutorial.
Not
as
even
well.
leap
October
year.
had 5
And then we
Not
don't
even
even come
leap year.
on the weekends. So you got to minus those. Cut it out. But we've had a great time.
Yes.
Sorry, we got to go. But we got to go.
Have a good weekend.
We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned to our social media. You know where to find us. It ain't going to be hard. You're going to know when we're coming back on. I'm going to give y'all the final words. Y'all got anything to say?
Happy Thanksgiving. See y'all after the break.
Yeah, happy
Free
Thanksgiving.
Keith Davis.
The new 1010 WOLB with talk in the day and soul at night.